So, Michael, could you explain to everyone what we're going to be doing today?
Well, today we're going to be looking at 4 films. Yep, that's right. 4 for the price of 1 with this episode.
Yes, and what that means is, of course, we spent a lot of time watching movies over this past week.
Yeah, my brain is broken.
Yes, but the issue was, we are doing, obviously, the Oscar movies nominated from last year that we haven't reviewed specifically on the channel. We're covering the remaining 4 that we haven't yet talked about. But the issue was, of course, Michael, they were all very long, weren't they?
Yeah, they were all almost the longest films. I was thinking about how Belfast was only 90 minutes, and I was like, man, if we do this next time, we need to make sure that whatever 90-minute films are nominated for Best Picture are in the Oscar roundup session.
Yes, and I remember seeing King Richard was like 2.5 hours, and so was West Side Story. I was like, oh, that's a bit long. And then
then comes Drive My Car.
Nightmare Alley after that, and that was again 2.5 hours. And King Richard might have been like 2 hours 20 or something. But yeah, then we got to Drive My Car. It's like, well, it can't be that long. It's about a guy in his car getting driven around. 3 fucking hours. So
it's insane.
Yes. Well, anyway, let's hope to finish this podcast in under 3 hours, eh?
Yes. Do what the Best Picture winners can't. Where's our nomination? Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the Oscars that just went by rounding up all of the films that were nominated for Best Picture at last year's Oscars that we have not yet reviewed, totaling 4 films. I guess, shall I just list them all now in the order we'll be going through them? Although obviously we'll introduce them to get to them. Yeah. So in total we will be looking at, starting off with King Richard, then West Side Story, then Midnight Alley, and finishing up with Drive My Car. So Luke, are you okay to just tell us a thing or two about King Richard?
Yes, and afterwards we're going to do our rankings from last year.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to rank them all, but obviously we've got our ratings, for all of them. So yeah, let's go. So first up is King Richard, Michael. King Richard, not about a medieval king of England, about Richard Williams, is a 2021 American biographical sports drama film directed by Reynaldo Marcus Green and written by Zach Balan. The film stars Will Smith, who, of course, he had a very famous incident, didn't he? Before he won Best Actor.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I was thinking that. It's very funny.
Yes, Anjuna Ellis. I'm sorry, I probably said that wrong.
No, yeah.
Sania Sidney, Demi Singleton. Is that the daughter of John Singleton? I wonder. Let me just see, because
that sounds very likely.
The answer is no.
Oh dear.
Sorry.
I'm disappointed.
I know. It also stars Tony Goldwyn, John Bernthal, and was released on November 19th, 2021 in the United States with a budget of what, Michael?
It was released with a budget of 40 million.
Close.
Okay.
It's 50.
I was about to say, I was like, maybe 50, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so decent guess. What about the box office?
It got a box office. I don't know about this thing, and there's the theatre and all that kind of stuff.
It was released in the theatre.
It was released in the theatre. In that case, it made a grand total of, Will Smith makes a lot of money, but this film just feels like it was a bit Oscar-y. So let's say maybe it made 60 million?
Okay, the answer is 39.4.
Oh, good. I did manage to get in on the...
I hope you were just going to hit your guess for the budget again. Didn't happen. Anyway, Michael, tell me, what did you think of King Richard?
I think this film felt a very kind of cliche or kind of like by the numbers, but then it was kind of interesting because it was like looking at the dad, because it was sort of like that manic genius kind of thing of like the guy who's aspirational but he's crazy. But it was interesting that it was looking at the father of Venus and Serena Williams. That was like an interesting twist. Overall,
you liked that?
I thought it was an interesting twist.
You see, the thing is, YMS said he didn't like why do a story about the father of the Williams sisters? And I, by the way, think I do agree with you. I think it's interesting. But
yeah, I think it's interesting in that, like, my assumption is that Venus and Serena Williams must not have had very interesting careers, because obviously, like, I was kind of, when I was looking at the time, I was like, okay, so this is not going to go at all into their careers, really. This is going to be like showing how they get set up.
Everyone knows how good they were.
That's kind of, I mean, that's the other thing, yeah.
you don't need to go over their careers.
Yeah, that's the other aspect of it.
They won everything. Serena is considered to be the greatest female tennis player of all time.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, it's like, everyone knows that how that story ends. But yeah, for me, I think it was kind of, I think it was a good movie.
It's very watchable. Yeah,
I think it is watchable. I think they hit the right beats. It's not incompetent. They knew what they were doing. But there are a couple of issues because here's what's interesting. Serena and Venus were producers on this movie. So this is not coming from an unbiased source.
I've seen that.
Yes, this is coming from Venus and Serena telling the writers what happened, and apparently they had to sign off on it after seeing the movie. Or it wouldn't get released. So the writers had to make sure that they portrayed things in a certain way to make them happy. And look, I think it's still a good movie. Like you say, it's watchable. It's it's got some cliche beats, I guess. But yeah, let's get into it now. So the plot is Richard Williams serves as a coach. Get it, serves. To his daughters, Venus and Serena, who will soon become two of the most legendary tennis players in history. Well, one of them will. To be fair, Venus was also very good, of course. There's intrigue, of course, because it is this incredible story. Two black kids from Compton making it to the top of the tennis world, and the maverick father who made it all happen. Like, that is it's an interesting premise to begin with, really. So as long as you don't mess up the story and add in some good emotional elements, which I think they do, they could have added in more, perhaps we'll get into that. But yeah, so it's a solid, really solid movie. But yeah, nothing about the plot surprised you, Michael, did it?
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, it was all quite... There were moments I liked, but I wasn't like, wow. Which, I mean, is true of, like, I know it's been kind of pointed out before that biopics often have this kind of very predictable formula, and it's been a thing that's parodied. So, it's not... This film's... It's not kind of what's what I'm looking for, like, blowing minds or anything like that.
Yeah, it is the curse of the biopic, I guess.
Yes.
For it to be made in the first place, well, the person has got to end up being successful, really. There's not biopics made about unsuccessful people, are there? So let's get into the script now, Michael.
Yes.
So the first.
By the way, sorry, I just want to say one. This was just a little nitpick. I just want to throw out right away because I didn't want this to be ignored. Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. By the way, I don't want that to be an ignored point.
Yeah, I remember someone said that.
Yeah, because I just thought, just before we jumped into it, I just wanted to make sure we're all clear on that.
Yeah, no, he was a fierce defender. Yeah, I can't remember where I heard it, but yeah, someone definitely said that.
Some great sage said it.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, let's get into the movie. So the first thing to talk about is Will Smith's voice. That's the first thing you notice. It's weird. I think his performance overall, to be honest, is quite good, actually. I think he does a good job, and I think he needs to carry the movie, obviously, to some degree. And I think he does a good job of it. I was surprised at how good his performance was. I was just thinking because of how he won his best actor at the Oscars. It's like, oh yeah, this performance maybe wasn't worth it, but it was actually good. I can see why he was nominated. But yeah, the voice is bad, but he works as Richard Williams. Well, the voice is bad. The voice is just weird. It's like Richard Williams didn't sound like that, and it's just quite weird to hear him talk like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know anything about Richard Williams, although you do see him at the end of the film in like the little kind of post-credits thing. And yeah, I guess like it's one of those things where maybe if you're Will Smith, you want to do a weird voice because otherwise, like, you've got to feel like you're acting a bit, because it is hard not to just think, oh, it's Will Smith pretending to be it's the curse of the superstar. Will Smith pretending to be this other guy. So maybe he just was like, well, I got to do a kind of voice, or else people won't know who I am. I mean, or rather, you get what I'm saying. Or else people won't even recognize he's acting.
Well,
but yeah,
no,
it is
I think
weird voice.
He was going for the Oscar. That's why he did the weird voice.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, you got to show that you're acting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not just showing that you're acting. It's like, oh, look at this. He's added something to this character. Oh, how interesting! What an interesting artistic choice. And it's just, I don't know. Like, you get used to it, obviously, but yeah, I'm not really sure it was that necessary. But anyway, so Richard, well, it worked for him. I guess he got the best actor. So Richard aspires to turn Venus and Serena into professional tennis players. He's prepared a plan for success since before they were born. And what I find interesting is it's exactly, well, of course, this came first, but it's like LeVar Ball, who was this maverick father to Lonzo, LaMelo, and LiAngelo Ball. Did you get that, Michael?
No.
Lonzo, LaMelo, LiAngelo Ball.
So who are these people?
The kids in the NBA. They all play in the NBA.
Oh,
And he was like a father to 3 of them, and he released his own shoe. He went on all these talk shows saying, "My boys are the best boys in the world. I could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one." He was like, he followed the Richard Williams playbook to some extent, and it's just like, and he said the exact same thing as Richard Williams. It's like, I married my wife because she was athletic. I knew my boys were going to turn into incredible basketball players.
Wow, this is a lot of eugenics going on here, right?
Yeah, because they got the genes. And to be fair, genes carry over. If you're a good athlete, your son's probably going to be a good athlete. Or daughters in this case. But yeah, it's just funny how some parents are obsessed. Like it's like the exact same playbook as LeVar Ball. It just, he's dropped off the news now, LeVar Ball. But back in 2017, that's what everyone was talking about in the NBA. LeVar Ball and his 3 sons were all going to make it into the NBA, and 2 of them were top 3 picks. So the best 3 in their year. So yeah, kind of like Serena and Venus. Although they're never going to be as good as Serena and Venus. But yeah, still very good.
Anyways. I will say, like, I don't think... I'm kind of reminded of La La Land, in that La La Land's a film I really remember, like, kind of looked at this idea of, like, people pursuing a plan and, like, having, like... I mean, I know this is, like, a weird thing because it happens in loads of films, but, like, people kind of pursuing a goal and, like, that idea of them... Mm-hmm. And I feel like the way, like, he has this plan, it kind of puts that front and center. But I don't know... And, I'm not really blaming the film for this, but it just would have made it slightly more interesting. It doesn't really kind of explore... that idea of like having a plan and like it not necessarily being guaranteed and like to what extent kind of, I guess it's because obviously the film kind of speaks this idea of like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps in a way, because like he comes from the hood. You obviously get that quite cool scene where the guy gets shot. That's a good scene, right? The drive-by shooting.
Yeah, well, I was going to get onto that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, but basically, it's like a rags to riches story, and obviously the film doesn't really thematically deal with that question of like that idea of people kind of just through hard work getting out of the hood. And obviously the film could have looked at that and it would have made it kind of a more, let's say, politically charged and interesting film.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I think, there should be more of an emphasis right at the start of like all this tennis training could be all for nothing. Because there is a bit of talk about that with one of the tennis coaches, but it's like he's been training them day after day after day, and if they don't get a coach, they're not going to be able to refine their skills. And as somebody who has been involved in a lot of sports, even like tennis, like the big difference is it's just coaching. Like if you can afford coaching or you can get coaching however you get it, like that's the difference between becoming like okay decent and taking yourself to being like a professional tennis player, for instance. That's the thing. It could be all for nothing, and he can't afford coaching. So yeah, I feel like there should have been a bigger emphasis on that. Like that's good for the narrative, and that would have been realistic. And that it kind of just glosses over that. Doesn't really. It kind of there is a couple of conversations, but it needs to be like a bigger deal. Like when he's taking his kids to what is the coach? I can't remember his first name. Tennis coach. And it's like this. And he's coaching Sampras and McEnroe. It's like this should be absolutely massive. But it's not. It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, like, it almost feels like kind of him getting rejected at the beginning is kind of almost like it's just there as kind of like a paint by numbers kind of thing, where it's like he's got to get rejected at first, but then when he does actually succeed, it feels kind of arbitrary, as if it's just like we showed him getting rejected, we showed him struggling, now it's time for him to just succeed. Yeah.
Again, he's going to succeed, but I think there could be more tension. Perhaps, but anyway, Richard tries to shoot this guy, who's been disrespecting his daughter and beating her up, and then, this guy gets shot. And I do wonder if something like that actually happened. Otherwise, it just seems very melodramatic. Like, I get you meant the movie wants to show how it could have gone. The dangers of growing up in Compton, about how Richard or maybe one of his daughters, they were very close to not making it if one of them was killed or one of them got into some beef with some fucking gang member. Yeah,
what I was thinking when it happened is I was kind of thinking to myself, like, leading up to it, I was like, hold on, he's got a gun? Like, is he gonna... And I was thinking to myself, that's kind of like a wild thing to do, if presumably it didn't happen. Yeah, and look, then when...
If it's a true story, it's fine, but otherwise it's too much.
Yeah. But the thing is, when the drive-by shooting happened instead, I was like, okay, that's at least like a little better, because it's like, in that case, they're introducing the element of danger, but they're not actually, like, pretending that...
Well, obviously he wasn't going to kill... He wasn't going to kill someone because
I know.
I knew that was going to happen, and so when this guy gets shot, it's like, okay, well that's a bit of a crazy thing to happen, and I think they added that in, and that was too much. They should have toned that down a bit. You can show the dangers of growing up in that area without such dramatic moment like that. And
it was quite cool though.
Yeah, but it wasn't in fitting with the rest of the movie, to be honest.
It was, like that thing. It was quite random when it's just like we're talking about this before. So I was like for somebody who hasn't seen the film, just for us to be like, and remember that drive-by shooting?
Yeah, so again, if it's a true story or something similar happened, it's fine. I doubt that was the case. But anyway, the Williams can't afford professional coaching, so Paul Cohen, that's his name, refuses to coach both girls and only wants Venus. And he rejects Serena for the time being. So normally this would create some animosity between the sisters.
Yeah.
But again, this is what I'm saying. This is produced by both Williams sisters. They made their childhood relationship seem, I don't know, perhaps better than it was. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but even if this is how it did happen, it's just kind of boring. Like they never pissed off with each other. Serena's just like, oh damn it, Venus gets to be coached and I'm not. Oh.
Yeah, the kids feel like, I mean, the consequence of the fact that Richard is the focus, the kids do feel like very underdeveloped, like this film, which I guess is one of the reasons why it's kind of like well, yeah, obviously the films, apart from that, we already have seen the them develop as athletes. The other reason the film isn't going to focus on their athletics is because who cares? They're boring.
They just seem like perfect kids, like in terms of there's no animosity between them. Maybe that was the case, but it's boring anyway. And they are also never pissed off with their dad either. He's trying to coach them and tell them what to do, making them train in the rain. Like he's fairly strict, obviously. Yes. I'd imagine there would be some element of the girls would be somewhat frustrated. But they are never frustrated with their dad. They like practicing in the rain. they are fine with him telling them what to do all the time. And again, maybe this is how it went down. Maybe the girls were very obedient and just listened to their dad, and there was never any conflict. But with the Williams sisters producing it and signing off on it and wanting to, clearly admire their dad somewhat and don't want there to be this negative perception of him, like it's almost a propaganda movie for. It's not quite there, but it's almost a propaganda movie for Richard Williams. Yeah. It falls a bit short of that, but yeah, I just don't know if it went down like this.
Yeah. Well,
I can't help but feel that like they're lying.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, obviously Richard, he is shown as a bit of a jerk at points with like the kind of aggression.
So it doesn't go all the way there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What did you think about the scene with like him really hating bragging? That was like that was a moment where I was like, wow, he's a real. I feel like it's kind of.
I feel that's realistic. That's real. That's the thing. But that's. So I can imagine him telling his girl stay humble. That I can absolutely believe that, and of course he's threatening to drive off. But again, that's something that you, as an audience member, would agree with. It's like, yeah, tell them to be humble. Being humble is a good thing. But if he's threatening to drive off if the girls haven't practiced hard enough, that then would be, oh no, he's being a bad father. Well, this one is like, okay, you shouldn't perhaps leave your girls and drive off, but at least he's teaching them a good lesson instead of just being overly harsh with them. So you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I kind of find interesting is like the whole. I don't know if you're about to get into this. I might be jumping, but like the whole like. Him not wanting the girls to do the tournaments. I don't know if that's.
Well, we're going to get into that.
Okay, we'll get onto that in a second then.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's just talk about the fact that obviously Paul encourages Venus to participate in tournaments.
Yes.
And she finds success. And I just want to talk about the sports movie aspect of this. Actually.
Yes.
Let's talk about that first because
that's actually an interesting point. Yeah.
This is a good sports movie in terms of the sports. Both the Venus sisters, the actresses. They can both play. They can both hit the ball well. Like I have actually coached.
Yes, I know you did, didn't you? Yes.
I wouldn't actually call it coaching tennis. I have hit balls at kids for them to hit back, and I've said good technique, good striking. And obviously I played tennis before. I know I've watched tennis.
Yeah. See, I don't. I mean, I don't really know. Like I was like, I was kind of like, oh, what does it mean to be good at tennis? You just hit it right.
I know what to look at basically. With tennis, and I can tell that these girls, the actresses can play. Like I don't know to what level, of course, because they edit, they probably take the best cuts, but they can hit a ball well. It's good technique. This is so different to say Bend It Like Beckham, when the actresses couldn't play football. Here, we have rallies, and the director doesn't cut away every time a ball is hit, unlike when a ball is kicked in Bend It Like Beckham.
This is just one thought. I feel like the one thing I know about like the tennis is that it's kind of like you get tired, and I kind of don't know to what extent I felt like the film really ever made me feel like the tiredness of it. Like for example, a lot of the time, one of the things I noticed, and I don't know what your opinion is on this, but like it seemed like when like a player was doing badly, it was like they were losing like almost every single game, and then they turn it around by winning every single game. And my understanding of tennis is that usually it's like you. No,
I mean, look, that can happen.
That can happen. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the final match.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it happened at the beginning too, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're on your own out there. You're on your own out there, so psychology plays a massive extent.
Any given Sunday.
Yeah, well, if psychology plays a massive extent, that means that you can have random momentum swings, because obviously, it's not a team game, it's like one person. And if you're having ups and downs, you can have a massive swing. That's not surprising, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's. But yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I don't know exactly how much I thought the film made tennis seem like as exciting as it could have.
Well, I imagine, by the way, what happened in the final match actually happened. I assume that's
Yeah.
maybe they made it more dramatic, but I can understand that happening. And again, Venus, she's only 14. She won't have the stamina of a pro. She would tire naturally towards the end of the game. But in general, like if you're a baseline hitter, you don't really need to run around that much.
Well, I will say, what do you think about the fact that at the end, like, they basically kind of suggest that the person who beat Venus was playing like kind of dirty?
Well, obviously she was. Yeah,
but do you think? I don't know. See, that's the thing where you would hope that's true, because if it's not true, like, that to me seems like it could be something where maybe the sisters were like, hey, let's make it look as if this person who beat me was playing dirty.
No, I mean, you can see what happened as soon as Venus sat down. She came out of the locker room. She was waiting for that moment, and you lose momentum. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
So obviously if what happened in real life happened like what they portrayed in the movie, it's a dirty underhand tactic, but that's what you got to do sometimes, and sometimes tennis players do it. Sometimes they do that.
The way the game is played.
You can't really regulate against that. But let's get back to the Venus and Serena being executive producers, because they approved after seeing the finished product, and Serena said, I think it was a great opportunity to see how amazing African American fathers are.
Oh yeah.
A lot of black men aren't seen in that light. A lot of people think my dad was a different character. He wanted us to have fun first over everything. That's the thing I love the most. The film is true to reality as possible, and I'm not sure if that's the case. I think the sisters told the writers what happened, and were like, this is how if you portray things really differently and try to make my dad seem, or our dad seem, worse than he actually was, according to them at least, we're not going to sign off on this movie.
Yeah.
They approved the movie only after viewing the finished product, and I imagine if they trashed the movie, this would not have been good. So the writers knew what they had to do, and again, maybe who knows if they were telling the truth or not. But it certainly paints him in a better light than what could have been, perhaps. One of Venus's tournaments, Serena also signs up, and so both girls continue to succeed, and the family, and this is from Wiki, are treated as outsiders among the predominantly white upper-class competition.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they actually are. Like, I don't think they actually are treated as outsiders. Like, there's no scenes with them being discriminated against, which I imagine you could include. There just wasn't any scenes like that. There is a couple of references to them being black, which is normal. But there's no scene of them like being not allowed to be on a court, because it's like, hey, are you actually competing here or something? Shit like that. There's none of that. And
no one mistakes Will Smith for like a butler or something.
Yes, and there is the agent scene, of course, but I think Richard is overreacting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like that's supposed to show how he can be like defensive. You might say a fierce defender of his family. Yeah,
I do wonder if they cut some scenes out, because he opens the conversation with like, "Oh, it's nice being at this KKK rally or something, with your hoods off." I'm like, wait, what? I think they may have cut out a scene before that where they were discriminated against. I think that might have happened.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah, it's like it's a bit of an awkward scene.
Yeah, and again, I think that probably happened, and that explains that scene better, but that's just a guess. So, fearing that his daughters will be taken advantage of, Richard pulls them out of the junior circuit. Paul warns him that his decision will destroy the girls' chances to turn pro, but he stands firm. I don't know if this movie is embellishing what Richard did, but I think this is a really smart move. And if Richard did have the foresight to, make them have a normal life, then fair enough. I honestly, good job. Like, this is maybe, again, it's propaganda for him, but and it didn't really go down like this. I'm not sure how it wouldn't have gone down like this, but I think this is smart, because your girls are really talented, just have a normal life, and I think that really helps. I think a lot of kids who are in youth sports, they do suffer with burnout. They do hate the game that they started loving because they play it so much and there's so much pressure. I do think that's a risk. So fair play to him if this actually happened.
I have the only one thing I wanted to say on that is that I feel like it does seem a little bit I wrote hypocritical, which I don't think is maybe the best word. I think maybe you could say dissonant. That he is shown as being somebody who pushes his kids really hard and obsessively. So for me, I think it was a bit weird for him to be on the one hand shown as somebody who literally that neighbor they have reports him for abuse because he's pushing the girls so hard, and then he it seems a little bit like kind of 180 that he's then like, no, actually, I don't want them to get burnt out. I want them to have a normal life. I think like a way to solve that would have been to maybe try and get a few more scenes of the girls actually like enjoying their normal life. So you could see like what it is that Richard is valuing, because what we see of him is mostly him actually pushing them.
There is a difference between him training them at this random tennis court in Compton and the going, all over the country, because that's what you would be doing on the junior circuit.
Yeah.
Like, traveling all over the country, long hours, really long hours, spending a lot of time away from home, in hotel rooms, etc. With
a big jump.
Yeah, there is a big difference there, to be fair. Anyway, coach Rick Macy then travels to California to see the girls play. Impressed, he takes the girls on, and the family relocates to Florida. Now, I always wondered if the Williams sisters were from Florida or Compton, because I heard they were from Compton, and then I was like, wait, I swear though I remember them being like from Florida, like that's where they grew up and played. So I was very confused. So now this makes sense. They moved from Compton to Florida. So there you go. There you go. That's
people move sometimes, eh?
Yeah, I know, but that's the thing. When I first heard about them, it was like, oh yeah, they learned, everything in Miami. Like people used to go down to Miami to watch these incredible sisters play, and then I heard, wait, they're from Compton? Well, I don't get that. So now it makes sense. Anyway, in the ensuing 3 years, questions arise from the media and from Rick about Richard's strategy with the girls. Venus tells Rick she wants to turn pro, and Richard agrees, but then reneges, worrying she will suffer a similar fate to Jennifer Capriati. And obviously, the decision strains Richard's relationship with Venus, and then Brandy as well, his wife. And Rick, after an argument with Brandy, he reconciles with Venus and agrees to let her go pro. So this is the best part of the movie, the emotional heart of it. Brandy, his wife, she's arguing with Richard about him being basically insecure. He may think he's a dumb N-word. That's what she says. And,
that's what she says. You didn't say that, did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
you only say that when you're watching.
Okay.
Yeah. I couldn't even. I was like going to go somewhere, but it doesn't matter.
Yes. So
just assume that I came up with a funny example.
Great. So he may think he's a dumb N-word. That's what she says, but I know you're not. And it's great because it really gets to the heart of this Richard character. Like she really does nail his insecurities. He acknowledges his insecurities and lets Venus play. That's the thing. He admits to himself and to her, like, he just wants to protect them. Like the whole plan thing. This is what I got from the movie anyway. Like the whole plan thing, Richard Williams' plan, like it's just kind of for show. Like it's just like this thing he's kind of created to make him seem smarter than he is, perhaps. But at the heart of it, it's just like I'm just doing whatever I can to protect my daughters and help my daughters live a good life and protect them. And the plan thing is just me, because he's insecure about the fact that people think he's maybe a bit dumb because where he comes from, because of his accent, etc., because of his job. So the plan thing makes him seem smarter, and but at the end of the day, he just like it's all for show. Like deep down, he just wants to protect his daughters, which I think that is a great moment, and that's what I took from that moment at least.
Yeah, I like that way of putting it, and I do think it's that aspect of him having this insecurity does work, and I think it makes him seem a little bit more kind of real. That obviously, like when you have like a facade that kind of breaks down, it makes you feel like you're kind of learning about the character. It kind of feels cathartic.
And so obviously, I like the scene where they meet with the Nike executive.
Because he like offers them loads of money up front.
Yeah, because again, this guy, Richard Williams, he was talking up his daughters, and it worked. Like, that's what LeVar Ball did as well. You big up your family, you create a lot of hype, and people are going to offer you more money. Now, I think the sisters were so good that was going to happen anyway. He didn't really need to do that, but certainly, helped if they weren't as good as they perhaps turned out to be.
Yeah.
So let's get to the climax of the movie. So Venus struggles against Sean Stafford, but eventually triumphs in her first professional match, and then she is against the top-seeded Aranska Sanchez Vicario. And I'm not sure if that look. I'm sure something like that happened in real life because this Vicario was a real tennis player. But what a situation. And obviously, you talked about the gamesmanship. Yes, a large crowd of supporters is waiting to cheer her on, and it's of course a very uplifting moment. It's like, hey, look how far you've come, and then several major shoe companies are anxious to meet with her, and that's the climax, and she made it, and I imagine that's a similar thing to what happened in real life, and what a great story it was. And that's the thing, what actually happened is so narratively interesting.
Yeah.
You don't really need to do a lot of work, to be honest, but maybe they edited some things, but it was a really satisfying ending, which was typical for a sports movie, but I think it was good nonetheless. What do you think?
Yeah. Also, like, this is the only tennis kind of sports movie I've seen, which is fun. But
You haven't seen Wimbledon.
No, I haven't seen Wimbledon. I've heard of Wimbledon, the competition. Oh, they don't actually win. Like, I mean, it's literally Rocky, right? Like, they don't actually win, but they show that they warrant respect, and that's like the point you end on. So it's a good thing to do. It's a classic thing to do. But you can't knock them too hard for going for the classic ending.
Yeah, I mean, again, if something like this happened in real life, of course she became a big star. Like, and at 14 years old, she did enter these tournaments. Then fair enough. And yeah, there is a lot of focus on Venus, not really Serena, which makes sense. He does have that line about Serena: "You're going to become the greatest in the world." I doubt he said that at the time. It's just like, oh yeah, this movie is not forgetting about Serena. That's the way to say, hey, look. This is about Venus because that's how it actually went down, because she's a couple of years older. So naturally, everything would be about her. But like the film acknowledges Serena, so I think that line was necessary to add in.
Now, which one? Let's not let this go unsaid. Which one's the one that got really angry at the umpire?
Well, Serena.
Okay, I don't know. I don't bother learning the difference.
Wow, I mean,
I'm a true fan.
Serena's better.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
She's been the one who's been at it for well, I don't know, sure longer, but she's had it.
Yeah, so she's like the one, when I think about like one of the Williams sisters being a tennis player, I'm probably envisioning Serena in my head.
Well, I can't believe you don't know that. You're such a fucking nerd that you don't know who Serena Williams is.
I just don't know exactly how I didn't actually know, and I'm now realizing from you just how substantial the difference is between them in terms of because I've always just thought of them as like a pair.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were two very good players. I mean, but Serena, over the course of her career, has elevated herself again into like the best female tennis player of all time. Venus is not. Venus hasn't been in that conversation, so that's the difference. You're talking about one of the best of her generation and like literally the best of all time. So there's a clear gap between them. Anyway, so let's conclude now, Michael. So Jesse Hassinger of the AV Club, this is my conclusion, by the way, says that it keeps enough of Richard's messy past off screen with a few concessions. It feels like a bit of a massaging rather than a true warts and all portrait, or portrayal, whatever. This could have been a real interesting film, I think, if the film asked what the price the Williams sisters paid. Was it worth it? But there doesn't appear to be a price. They seem totally happy with what Richard put them through. And indeed, the only conflict, which is a good conflict, by the way, I think it's good, but the only conflict nonetheless is, her dad wants her to have a normal life too much, So if the conflict was, maybe he's working them too hard, what's the price of success, would have been more interesting. And of course, Richard's past of having other kids, perhaps, that he didn't, he basically didn't talk to, neglected. That's kept off screen. So it isn't a total Richard Williams propaganda movie, but it's the closest you could get with it being like realistic, within the bounds of, okay, I can imagine something like this actually went down. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 overall. It could have been better, but yeah, obviously with the Venus sisters at the helm, that was probably its maximum.
So I'm not sure what word I'd use to describe it, but I would say that this film definitely does show like a kind of idealized view of Richard Williams. And, that's okay. I think like basically a situation where he has flaws in terms of being kind of a bit of a jerk at certain points, and a little bit let's say set in his ways, stubborn if you will, and that does make this film more interesting. Obviously everything that happens is kind of the way the plot develops is very kind of cliche, and that does make it watchable. Like this film is very easy to just be like, yeah, this is what's happening. And to be honest, the film didn't really feel its length, so there we go, credit there. That's another example of being watchable. For me, I don't think I can give it too much credit, because I do think like it is pretty much very similar to a lot of other films. However, the fact that it does have Richard Williams as a key figure is something that makes it more interesting. I was only going to give it a middle 6, so like basically a full rating lower than you, but maybe that's just because I'm racist. No, not really. I just didn't like the cliche stuff was worse for me. Middling 6.
Okay, middling 6. So let's move on to West Side Story now, Michael. Of course, the remake. We have already reviewed the original West Side Story. I think I gave it 5 out of 10. So it's a 2021 American musical romantic drama film, directed and co-produced by Steven Spielberg. The screenplay was by Tony Kushner. It stars Ansel Elgort, Ariana DeBose, David Alvarez, Mike Feist, Rita Moreno, and Rachel Zegler. The movie was released on December 10th, 2021 in the United States. And Michael, can you tell me the budget?
It's going to be quite a lot probably
Yeah.
because of all the things going on. Maybe it was like as much as 80 million.
100. So yeah, kind of close.
Okay, so it's 100 million. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, not quite there. And what about the box office?
Oh, God. So this was in the theaters.
It was, yes.
I feel like this film might have been. I don't know. I'm gonna guess it made I'm gonna guess it made 80 million.
Close, 76.
Okay, cool. Well
so
done. Me.
yeah. Well done you. So, did you like West Side Story, Michael?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when you mentioned this film was being made, I was like, oh, that seems kind of pointless. And I guess like I came to the conclusion at the end of this, I think it was kind of pointless. Basically, it made a few changes. To be fair, most of the changes I think it made were probably for the better. But I think in terms of like the biggest problems with West Side Story, which I did actually like as a film, it didn't really address any of those. So I guess I came away thinking to myself, like, at the end of the day, when I watch West Side Story in the future, and I will because I'm gay and I like musicals, it won't be this version, which, so there we go.
Yeah. Well, I remember listening, I listened to our review recently of the 1961 one, and I said that I imagined the Spielberg one will be a lot better, and it was a lot better. I mean, a lot better. There's still the plot issues which remain. But yeah, I mean, did it need to be remade? No. But it takes the aspects of the 1961 version, and in a lot of areas it improves them. So that's nice. It's a really, obviously, well-done movie. He knows what he's doing, Spielberg. And my one nitpick is, obviously, the Puerto Ricans keep speaking Spanish randomly, and the subtitles just say they speak Spanish.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, I thought that was a funny thing. I mean, sometimes films do that, and like obviously, I mean, they do have to think about like they have to practice learning English, which is the excuse for why they're not speaking Spanish all the time.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about the plot. So it's a remake of the 1961 film about two youngsters from rival New York gangs who fall in love, but tensions between their respective friends build towards tragedy. Obviously, the virus of racism and how it takes lives and ruins lives. That theme is still there, and yeah, it's Romeo and Juliet enhanced. This has gone through many versions now. You had Romeo and Juliet, you have now the Broadway production, then you had the 1961 version, and then you had this 2021 version. So yeah, Romeo and Juliet, I just don't find the story that interesting, and of course we already reviewed it relatively recently, seen it relatively recently, the 61 version. So yeah, there was nothing really about this which enticed me really, apart from like the songs. The songs were a lot better produced, as you could imagine, because it's 2021 and not 61.
Yeah. I like the soundtrack. I still like basically all the songs in this. I just think they're fun. There aren't any songs I find boring, which is good. I will say, actually, I wrote, so the songs were kind of different, and I did write a few things about the songs now they changed, just very briefly, because I want to give some credit where it's due. One, they introduced more appropriate locations for the Officer Krupke and One Heart song, because I think in like the 61 version for the Officer Krupke song, they're literally just like standing around in an alleyway, whereas this one, they introduced the idea that they've been arrested, and then like the whole thing happens where like left alone in the, jail, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense as where they would do the Officer Krupke song, and then the One Heart thing obviously is like in the church, which I think that whole idea of like Tony and Maria go on a date, that whole thing was introduced in this film, which is obviously better because it like allows their relationship to be more established.
Yeah,
so that was an improvement.
Yeah, some improvements here and there. So let's get into the movie. So you've got these. It's set into 57, by the way, which is because of the Lincoln Center being built, I imagine. You've got the Jets and the Sharks. The Sharks hardly refer to themselves as the Sharks. Maybe because Spielberg realised it's stupid because that's an English word and the Spanish. Like we went through this last time.
Yeah.
So Krupke and Schrank break up the skirmish, telling the gangs the conflict is pointless since the neighborhood will soon be demolished to make way for the Lincoln Center. So the major difference to the first movie, I think, is there is this focus on gentrification, which obviously back in the 1960s wasn't as prevalent. You have this theme of driving out Puerto Ricans and also working class white people to build apartments for richer people. And I like how the cop is like, hey, you white people, you shouldn't be affected by this. You should already be out of this area.
Yeah, that's the way you really cool people out.
Yeah, it's like you're white trash, basically. Like if you're white and you're affected by gentrification, what you're doing with your life?
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is true. And and again, it makes sense given the message of the movie in general is racial conflict is pointless and futile, and therefore adding this gentrification theme in shows that the racial conflict makes things like gentrification easier as the working class is split. And I think that's good, but they should have delved more into that.
The politics of these films, both of them, but let's say just this film, is kind of always something that feels like it's lacking because like I think part of the issue is that obviously the whole Romeo and Juliet kind of thing is like very abstract. Like that's kind of the point. It's just about like these two groups hate each other, and obviously within the original play, the reason why they hate each other is kind of intentionally arbitrary. It's one of those like hate becomes abstract rather, and if you try and like make it about a specific thing, then it becomes less abstract,
well,
and everything kind of breaks down.
Racism is arbitrary as well.
Yeah,
That's
but like the thing is,
point.
obviously, it means that like therefore they can't explore it in as much detail. I guess is all I'm saying.
Well, they could. I mean, if they wanted to.
Yeah, I guess they could, but they would be
What I like is the start of this movie. I think it's more violent than the first movie. You know, do you remember, Michael?
You said that, well, I feel like you complained about an absence of grit.
Yeah, it doesn't seem this movie like it's a bunch of like homosexual gangs having a gay dance off. You know, I think that's perhaps what the first movie felt like, and I get that the dancing, it's meant to symbolize fighting, but it just seemed too funny to see dancing and imagine, these guys are like tough street, gangs, and like you don't want to mess with them while they're like leaping around. This one, it's much more violent, which is better. It's more believable. So Riff approaches Tony, who was on parole, for help, and he refuses. And obviously, Tony's played by Ansel Elgort. And Ansel Elgort, I have to say, Michael, he doesn't work for me in this movie. Like, I like the original actor in the 1961 version, because remember, he has the same body type as me. I said that. And he was this business guy in Twin Peaks who almost fucked his daughter. Called Ben Horn.
Yes, of course. He had the horn.
Very good character. And Ansel Elgort, he doesn't look like rough enough. Like, he looks like too pretty. And, he is meant to be the least racist guy, but he also looks like a Nazi the most. Like, he just has this, he has the face of like a Nazi or a bully, of like a weirdo. And, plus he apparently is also a rapist.
Ansel Elgort is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, so there were some allegations against him in 2020. So I don't know if they're true, but that's what some people said.
Oh my god, look how insanely huge his neck is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, he looks like a Nazi. Like, that's a Nazi, from a Nazi propaganda poster. That's a Nazi neck. I don't think this movie is as good as it could have been, because I just don't believe Ansel Elgort as this guy, Tony. I think it's bad casting. And he, by the way, is apparently an awful guy as well. I just think this movie could have been a lot better if they had someone better in this role.
Well, I'm not a super wokeoid like you, so as far as I'm concerned, I still listen to Michael Jackson. But I mean, for me, I'm not gonna lie, Luke. I don't really know if I found his casting particularly crazy. I'm not gonna say like.
Look at him. Don't you think he looks like this high school bully, like this racist who would never he looks like the complete opposite of like this kind.
Well, I like that.
Guy.
See, I mean, one of my criticisms of West Side Story is I wish Tony had a little more grit to him. I feel like it doesn't make as much.
He doesn't have grit though. I don't think he has grit either.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I feel like the character he's supposed to be playing is like a reformed gritster because he went to like prison and stuff and then he got out. I feel like he looks, to me, if I think of him as like a guy who went to prison for like assaulting somebody, but then got out and decided he was going to try and turn his life around, I feel like he doesn't look completely dissimilar to that.
No, he looks like a guy on a Nazi propaganda poster. He looks like a bully, and bully, like a weak bully, the kind of guy who's like not, who doesn't want to get in a fight, who just like sneers, and like mocks people from like
like a rich bully.
Yeah, exactly, like a rich bully. Like, he looks like, maybe that's it. He looks like he's got a rich kid face. That's it, maybe. And he doesn't seem like this working class guy who's like the least racist. Yeah, he looks like a rich kid. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm conflating being a Nazi with being rich. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, have you ever seen the film The Fault in Our Stars?
No.
Because he plays the romantic lead in that film, where it's a very kind of emotionally sympathetic film. Like, he's very kind of. I think it relies. I don't know, but he is. So the significance of the film is that the girl he's dating in the film is terminally ill. Yeah, but
the girl he's dating is white.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
So there you go. I can believe that. Anyway, let's move on from Ansel Elgort, because the film screenplay hews more closely to the Broadway script. Did you know that?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the dance scene is done very well. The choreography is great, and the effort and expertise to make this happen, I think, is amazing. But again, the issue is like Tony. He's telling Maria of his love, promising to see each other, and I just don't get any chemistry from these two, and I think it's Ansel Elgort's fault. Honestly, like, I can't believe I don't think people criticized him that much for this performance, but for me, it's just like awful. Like, there's no chemistry between these two people. Like, look, he can sing, he's a good singer, But I don't think he's a good Tony. That, like, you compare it to the 1961 version, that is so much better. And I don't think the dialogue is good either. I just don't think it's believable overall.
I definitely prefer the 1961 Tony.
Yeah, because of how bad Ansel Elgort is, right?
Well, you know, I mean, I don't hate Ansel Elgort like you do. Clearly, you've got a very
you're just not paying attention. You just watch his face when he's like singing and interacting with Maria. It's just like there's nothing there, and he doesn't have the face anyway to make it seem believable. It's just awful.
Really? Yeah. Okay. That's fine. I believe you. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, nobody can appreciate how bad his performance is apart from me, apparently. Anyway, so Bernardo and his girlfriend Anita argue about living in New York compared to Puerto Rico. Anita believes, in the American dream, and Bernardo doesn't. And, it's the same issue with the America song that I had before. Why is it gendered? I don't know why. But I do like how creative Spielberg is with it compared to the original, which was just on a roof, Like, the song is, you're going through these Puerto Rican neighborhoods, like the lyrics, what actually happens in the lyrics, you see happen, on screen. So, again, Ariana DeBose as Anita is great in the song. So, yeah, this was probably the best part of the movie, because it's like, the song is great, and now you produce the song to a higher level, the choreography is great, like, walking through the streets of this part of Puerto Rico, well, New York, I mean, of course, the Puerto Rican part of New York. I think this is so good, this part, and this elevates, this part is my favorite part. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree, like, I don't know if it's my favorite part. I mean, I would say, like, it's the best song, which I guess means it's good, but definitely, like, that it does expand on the, choreography of the original and like the production of the original. But no, I mean, I think it's just fine. I don't know.
Okay, you just haven't been paying attention. You had your eyes closed to Ansel Elgort and how good that song was. So you're a Philistine, clearly. That's the only thing to take away from this review so far.
Yeah. Sorry, can I just say, I'm taking this from the guy who literally, like, his biggest criticism of the original, no, not biggest, but, a substantial criticism was that it was gay because there wasn't enough violence. And I'm going to be the Philistine, I see.
No, but look, it's all about believability, I can't believe Ansel Elgort is Tony. I can't believe that these guys are street toughs when they're like prancing around. I just can't believe it. And this movie does address that problem. Like, Spielberg agrees with me because he makes it more violent because he understands that makes more sense. Anyway, so Tony takes Maria on a date, and he reveals he was imprisoned for a year. And I like this. I don't know if it improves the character that much, but yeah, you develop Tony more. That just makes sense, I think. And then, obviously, Tony tries to convince Riff to call off the Rumble by stealing his gun. The Jets steal it back, and that's when we get Play It Cool Boy, which... in a
different location.
Yeah, it's sung now by Tony to Riff. I don't know if I like this. I don't know if it's necessary.
I thought this was... So I wrote it's in a more logical location. I prefer this location of it to where it is in the original, where obviously it happens after the fight. After the fight, I feel like it kind of just takes focus away from the... Whereas I feel like here it's kind of like... It makes sense to have the song as a contrast to, like, before the violence. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think before... The song after is just kind of pointless because it's, like, these characters who, no one cares about. So having maybe Tony sing it is better. But I don't think it fits, really. It's definitely a song, to sing after something crazy's happened, not before.
Yeah, play it cool, boy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, everyone's mad. No, you gotta play it cool. Well, everyone's not mad now because the fight hasn't happened. So that's what I think. But anyway, the Rumble I think makes more sense in this one again because they're both being evicted from their neighborhood, and this is a kind of a last stand. Let's finish this once and for all. There's a kind of nihilism with the Jets. And obviously Bernardo is pissed because of Tony and Maria. But, there's this let's just do it and end it attitude because of the gentrification. And I think that's better than the 1961 version. The problem is still, why are these gangs, not doing illegal shit in the first place? That's what gangs do. And, like, you could say, they're high school, kids or whatever. But, like, Bernardo looks like 30. So, that's still an issue. What do you think?
Yeah. Like, I mean, yeah, I would agree. Like, the whole substance of them being in a gang feels like a bit weird and doesn't really make much sense. Yeah.
So despite their efforts, the Rumble happens and Bernardo stabs Riff, and then obviously Tony stabs Bernardo, and the gang flees when the police arrive. And again, the Rumble seems a lot better than the original. Like, better dialogue, better fleshing out the characters and their motivations, and more violence, which is, and better violence. Again, like Spielberg knew he had to up the violence, and he did. So Maria gushes about her love for Tony at work with "I Feel Pretty." Do you want to give us a rendition of that, Michael?
I'm entrancing, feel like dancing, feel like running and prancing for joy, for I'm loved by a pretty, wonderful boy.
Do you want to say the line where she says, "I'm gay"?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Said I feel and gay, and I pity any girl who isn't me today.
Right. This is the problem with having that scene after the fight scene, because we've just seen the most intense scene in the movie, and her brother's murdered. I don't know if it's a good idea to have this song after. I don't think it works. You have this like upbeat song, and I feel like, David Brent, that line of "Are you still thinking about the bad news?" That famous meme or that famous line from The Office.
Yes,
it says that, and that's. I feel like David Brent saying, "Oh, you're still thinking about the murder, aren't you? All the murdering." While she's singing that "I Feel Pretty."
Yeah. I think that is I think this was a weird placement too, because it's kind of like, I guess like what it's relying on is like the old contrast thing, but I feel like it's you can't. This is not a good contrast.
Yeah, it's out of place. This needs to be before, and it makes happens.
I agree. Yeah,
makes what happens in the fight more impactful as well. Perhaps So Maria is distraught. And she meets Tony later. She refuses to let himself turn himself in, as it would mean losing him, and so they run away or plot to. So not only does she mind that Tony killed Bernardo, this is the problem with the first one. This is the issue I had, but then she has sex with him afterwards, which is a wild thing to do. Like, I didn't know things could get worse than the 61 version, but I guess this is the case, right?
Yeah. Again, I mean, so this is actually an example where, like, I was watching it, and, like, my personal opinion, and I always have very wild opinions on characterization. For me, I was almost like, I feel like the best case scenario for this film would be actually just to go, I said Tony should have more grit. I feel like they should go, like, hardcore in the opposite direction. Like, I don't even think Tony should, like, show any remorse. I think he should just be like, whatever, fuck it. He killed my friend, I killed him, I hate him, and then Maria's still into it. I feel like that's the best route, because then it's like, you're just like, well, I guess she's into it,
It's so hard to do that, because it just doesn't make sense.
Rather than like this thing where it's kind of like he's like sorry, and she's like, because I feel like this is setting unrealistic standards for street toughs. They're like, hey, you can kill a girl's brother, and as long as you seem kind of sad about it, she'll be into it.
Anyway, so Anita returns home and sees Mary and Tony together, and obviously she argues with Maria, but accepts that she and Tony are in love. And again, Anita helps Tony and Maria. I don't find that believable. I said it, but back again, this is the issue with this plot. It's like Tony is helped too much by Maria, and especially Anita. Obviously, when she encounters the Jets and they attempt to gang rape her, that's what it says on Wikipedia, so that's confirmed.
Well, yeah, the Puerto Rican lady uses the word rape.
Yes, and Anita spitefully claims that Chino killed Maria, and vows to return to Puerto Rico, giving up all hope of her American dream. I think that was more explicit than in the 1961 version, like how the American dream is not achievable for Puerto Ricans. In 1961, it wasn't that explicit. It's like, fuck America, basically. That was what Anita was saying. And she didn't really say, I don't think she could say it in the 2021 version, but she was nowhere close to saying that, I feel like, in the 61 version. So, yeah, and I like that. Again, that's better. But I don't like the fact that the only Jet that isn't called a rapist is Tony or Ansel Elgort. I don't know, I just find that funny. Like, all the other Jets are called rapists, apart from him.
I was thinking that too. It's like he's really hanging out with a bad group of people, isn't he?
Well, just because of his personal life,
Yeah.
Ansel Elgort,
Oh yeah. Oh sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Oh yeah. I already forgot. Wow. I'm a bad ally. I already forgot that he.
Christ.
Well, he seems like a nice guy. I just struggle to believe it.
No, he's a Nazi rich kid who's a rapist, right? Allegedly. The thing is that gentrification doesn't really appear at the end, or throughout the movie, like I said. And I was thinking, Michael, I would like it if throughout the movie, like, Tony was trying to get the Jets and the Sharks to join forces and fight, like, the city and gentrification.
He'd be a communist. He'd be a part of the stupid pole.
Yes, and they, obviously the city is trying to evict both the Puerto Ricans, the white people, and, he's like, no, we got to stand together and stop getting evicted. If we're divided, then we'll fall, all of that shit. But that doesn't happen. And, if you weave the gentrification thing into the plot more, and therefore I think it enhances the message of the movie, which is that racial conflict is pointless and futile and harmful. And, when Tony died, the hope that the evictions wouldn't happen for these people would be over as well, basically. Which I think would be a good message and enhance the theme. But obviously that's not going to happen, or it didn't happen. So, that was my idea to make that better. Shall we conclude? You go first.
Yeah, why not? So my conclusion, I wrote, I just wrote this little thing. I wrote, overall, the modernized aesthetic is slightly more impressive, but it feels unnecessary. And for me, like, that's basically what I'm like up against with this film. It is slightly better than the original, but it's also, in my view, not so much better as to make itself more than unnecessary. And for me, the unnecessariness of it counts against it quite a bit. I'm going to give it a high 6, because I do think there's a lot in it to like and appreciate, but at the same time, it's also kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I think it is. I think there's so many improvements. There are some things that drag the movie down. I think a 7 is a fair rating, because I kind of have craps in this movie quite a bit, but I think what's impressive is how the care that Spielberg takes with like the production. I do think it could have used a modern retelling in terms of the songs. You know, like it feels really good. Like the Officer Krupke song with all the kids are singing about how delinquent they are. Again, that's just so good. Like, it's so well done. Like,
we're down on our knees.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, so again, I think that is something that is a lot better. So again, just because of all that shit, it's a 7 out of 10. If he improved the plot and didn't make some bad errors, it could have been like a 7.5, or maybe even an 8. But didn't go that far. Anyway, Michael, let's talk about Nightmare Alley now. Nightmare Alley.
For some reason I wrote Midnight Alley. Let's fix that.
So, okay, Nightmare Alley. This is, by the way, a remake. Did you know?
Yes, of a film from like the 40s.
Yes. Did you watch the film from the 40s?
You know what? Shockingly, I thought I'd seen enough films, but I did think to myself, I should have watched the film from the 40s. I bet it would be, because there were like moments when I was watching this, I'm thinking to myself, like, how much of this is like similar to the 40s? Because I know films were a little bit different back then.
It's very similar. The ending in the 2021 version is a lot harsher. Than the 40s one. So Nightmare Alley is a 2021 neo-noir psychological thriller film co-written by Guillermo del Toro based on the 1946 novel of the same name, and there's a movie that came out in 1947.
Wow, they made films fast back then.
The novel was by William Lindsay Gresham. So
did you say Lindsay Graham?
No. The movie stars Bradley Cooper, Kate Blanchett, Toni Collette, William Dafoe, Richard Jenkins, Rooney Mara, Ron Perlman, Mary Steenburgen, and David Stratham. What a cast! What a cast, Michael! Just an incredible cast.
Yeah, it is like quite star-studded.
Yeah, the movie was released on December the 17th, 2021. And Michael, can you tell me what the budget was?
Well, you mentioned cast, so let's assume that knocks it up a bit. I think this film cost 50 million.
60.
Okay.
So you're consistently going under. What about
but like, to be honest, I'm quite happy with how good of a job I'm doing so far.
Okay, good for you. What about the box office?
It
was released
not
in
much.
theaters.
Not much. I don't think this film made that much. I think it made like 20 million.
Oh, okay. Well, you just survived. It's 39.6.
Oh, that is quite funny.
So you were almost less than half. I tried to help you by saying it was released in theaters, but no, you couldn't help yourself. But
yeah, well, I still didn't. I don't know. Like, it's just like in my head, I'm kind of like, you know, compared to all the other films, like the two films we looked at so far, I'm like, okay, West Side Story is like a classic. You know, the other one was about like these two famous things. What's this about? Oh, it's circus. Yeah.
So I'll tell you my thoughts first. I didn't find this movie that interesting, to be honest.
No, yeah.
This wasn't that narratively interesting. I get what the movie was trying to say, trying to do. It just didn't grip me, just didn't interest me. I didn't really care.
Yeah, I wrote the fewest notes for this one. I was always ahead of where the film was. There was a point where I was like, oh, is this going to be like a film that I'm like trying to save the geek? Because when the geek first gets introduced and it's like, oh, he looks really sad and stuff, I'm like, is this going to be like about the geek being saved? And I was like, well, I wouldn't like that, because that would feel like it's kind of, you know, a bit too moralistic for a character who seems like he's got a bit of edge to him. And I'm glad they didn't go down that route. I guess I preferred the fact the film had like grit to it and like edge.
You didn't think he was going to become the geek?
I didn't think he was going to become the... No, I didn't predict from the outset that he was going to become the geek, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I thought. Like 50 minutes in, I made a prediction about this movie, and some of it came true, some of it didn't. But again, like I think, you know, it was clear where this movie was heading. It was heading for tragedy, Michael. Wasn't gonna end well. Maybe
yes.
I knew that because Del Toro was directing it. The film stars Bradley Cooper as a charming and ambitious carnival worker with a mysterious past who takes big risks to boost his career. And I went on the legal website I used to watch these films, and it had another description. Do you want to hear it?
Oh yeah, I love your other descriptions from the legal website.
So a baby pufferfish travels through a wondrous microworld full of fantastical creatures as he searches for a home on the Great Barrier Reef.
A baby pufferfish? I don't even know what that's. That's an interesting... I feel like this must have been from like a knockoff Finding Nemo or something.
Yes, I think so, yes. yeah, this movie, that was a mistake clearly, but yeah, no Great Barrier Reefs in this one. It's a movie about a grifter who eventually gets his comeuppance. I wish that would happen to Donald Trump.
Oh wow, that's Luke. It sounds like you're trying to win an Academy Award with that kind of language.
Yeah, this con man who thinks he can grift anyone and he thinks he has all the power. But he doesn't really. I think there needed to be a better connection between like the characters. There need to be more character-driven scenes. I think
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, do you think the plot was just a bit too plot-heavy, if anything?
Yeah, it just felt like things were happening. It's one of those films where you're just like, oh, I guess that's happening now. Oh, I guess that's happening now. And it's like there's just. I feel like it's one of, I guess, like in a way, like obviously I know like a lot of noir films, they like to have their kind of moody, introspective characters, which can work, but I think it also creates some meaningful constraints in terms of like getting invested in the character. And, like to overcome that, you have to have it so, I don't know, there's something else going on. Because I was kind of just like, this kind of moody character we don't really know anything about, it's just like doing stuff.
There doesn't seem to be a humanity underneath this guy, which is, he doesn't really seem that human. He just seems, like a con artist.
That's a good point.
That's it. And
yeah, I never sympathized with him, really.
Yeah, it's hard to empathize, sympathize. I just don't care that he failed, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Also, okay, I had a question, but it was jumping ahead, so never mind.
Okay. So, the movie starts in 1939. Stan Carlisle obtains a job at a carnival and watches a geek show in which a deranged man eats a live chicken.
Delicious.
Can't believe those are outlawed now. He begins working with clairvoyant act Madame Zena and her husband Pete. And I'm just wondering for the first 30, 40 minutes, where is the narrative thrust? There is this mystery around this character, but he's just hanging out and meeting people in the carnival and not doing much else.
Yeah.
And the scenes aren't that fun in the first place. The noir element kind of means that there's this air of sadness about most of these scenes, and it's just what's actually happening here, guys?
And color wise it's pretty bleak as well. It's a very bleak film.
Yeah, so it's just not that fun. And he's learning about how to get a man to geek, and he's learning about tricking people. So I thought Bradley Cooper and Molly were going to end up like Pete and Xena. And Stan's character, he said he never drunk at all. Obviously, Pete is
that's going to change.
Pete is an alcoholic. So that he's going to turn into Pete, he's going to become an alcoholic, and he was maybe also going to end up geeking at the end. He was going to be like a geek, and there was an emphasis on the geek. And the first line that Stan says in the movie is to the geek. He's silent for the first 2 minutes until he talks to the geek. So that's what that's what I thought was going to happen. And this life of being a carny, of being a trickster, can only lead down. Or a grifter, maybe being a carny is too harsh, but being a trickster or a grifter, it can only lead down one place, which is a nightmare alley,
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's the title of the film.
Yes. So did you think something like that was going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was going to, I could predict it wasn't going to end well for him. I could predict he was going to, fall from a kind of grace, I guess, and, his schemes were going to catch up to him. I didn't really think about, the possibility of him actually becoming the geek until it reached the point where he was actually homeless. Once he was homeless, so which was really only the last 10, 20 minutes of the film, then I was like, oh, he's going to become the geek. So I didn't really think about that possibility until it was oh, he's homeless and destitute. I can see where this is going. But the funny thing is, I did predict him becoming I mean, to be honest, I don't think my prediction was actually that he was going to die, more likely, if I really think about it.
No,
so
not sad enough. So, 2 years later, Stan has successfully reinvented himself with a psychic act for the wealthy elite of Buffalo, with Molly as his assistant. During a performance, their act is interrupted by psychologist Dr. Lilith Ritter, who attempts to expose the rigged act. Stan bests and humiliates Ritter with his cold reading skills. Ritter arranges a meeting with Stan to exchange info. So Stan sees himself similar to Ritter, two sides of the same coin. And Ritter, of course, she takes offense to that, and then she tries to lead him down this nightmare alley. There you go. That's the title of the movie again, and that's the plot.
Revenge.
Yes. So Kate Blanchett knows he's a grifter, and eventually, she thinks he will have bitten off more than he can chew. She bigs up his ego, saying nothing can stop you now. Tries to get him to drink, tries to get him to be too big for his boots, right? And I guess she's trying to show the difference between him and her, and that she's not powerless. She can get one over on him. So that's all very clear. My question is, why is she so motivated to fuck this guy over? That's what
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, because yes, he did humiliate her and did kind of insult her, but she seems intent on exposing him and fucking him over, and there just seems to be a complete lack of motivation on her part. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's kind of what I was thinking. Like she doesn't feel like that compelling of a villain because she kind of just like comes out of nowhere, and then you can't really tell what her deal is, and then it's just like, oh no, she's going to betray him, without any reason. It makes no sense. Or it does make sense, but it's just like it's not that compelling kind of narratively.
Yeah, it's like he needs to have fucked her over more.
You know what it reminds me of? You've already mentioned YMS. Have you seen his review of the horror film Amusement?
No.
It's a very entertaining review, and Amusement is apparently a very bad film, so there's not really much point watching the film. But basically, like, the essential premise of Amusement is that there's a serial killer who's hunting a load of girls down from his school because they didn't like his school project. And, like, just that in itself, the fact it's like a slasher film where the villain's motivation is, like, the pettiest thing in the world, it kind of reminds you of this, where it's like, again, like, she's got this motivation that's incredibly petty.
Yeah, it's just very petty, so... you need more scenes with them, perhaps more scenes with Stan and Molly to show him losing her to, more of a human element to his character. Bradley Cooper plays this character with a lot of mystery, and maybe that's because in the moments where you do get into his head, that becomes more impactful. But I just don't care as much. That's what happens, I guess. That's the consequence. So yeah, things could have been, I think, better in the middle of the movie, definitely, to make it more intriguing, more interesting. And but anyway, so he gets fucked over by this Cate Blanchett character.
Yeah. I had a question about that, which I wanted to ask. Because it might have been me not paying attention. Why does he lose all of his money? Because the original arrangement was he would give her 50% of the money and keep 50% of the money himself. It wasn't clear to me why he lost all of it.
Well, she gave him dollar bills.
Oh, sorry. So it was sorry. No, okay. Here's the thing. I understand now. See, I thought that she switched them for dollar bills. So I thought that she gave him the money, and then like he gave the money back to her, and she switched the money for dollar bills then. But she was giving him dollar bills from the beginning.
Yeah.
And like so, she was always scamming him. Okay, yeah, sorry, that makes sense.
Yeah, she was always scamming him. Yeah, I think that was the case.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
because I was a bit confused because I was like, hold a minute, like did he? Because I was thinking he was, she was giving him the money and he was taking the money. But yeah, now it makes sense. Okay.
I mean, she could have switched it out.
Yeah.
Later as well, but that's what I assumed. But anyway,
so that figures.
Yeah, so a flashback reveals Stan killed his father by exposing him to hypothermia before burning his house down. So that's what Cate Blanchett did to him. Exposed him. Right at the
hypothermia.
End. Yes, and exposed him literally. That's what Bradley Cooper did. And his father never knew he was hated by his son. His son was running a grift, pretending he liked him. And similar thing with Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett was pretending that she liked this Stan Carlisle character, and of course she did not.
The grifter has become the grifted.
Yes, exactly. The comeuppance, getting what he deserves. And the thing is, it makes sense for Bradley Cooper's character to want to expose and fuck over his dad because apparently he suffered abuse as a kid. There is, of course, motivation. Contrast that to Cate Blanchett's character. There is nothing really there to make her hate him that much. So yeah. And does that mean Cate Blanchett's character is going to be exposed too? Will the cycle continue? I'm not sure. Using the same language that William Dafoe did to the alcoholics many years ago, Stan tells the owner that he was born for it. And yeah, it was all going to end like that, wasn't it, Michael? Lesson learned, eh? Lesson learned.
Yeah. I don't really know what he meant by like he was born for it. It feels like it's like the line that the film ends on, but it's kind of like I don't really know exactly what he meant by being born for it because it's kind of just like there's nothing about like we don't find anything about like him when he started off. I don't know. I just thought it was I thought it was like a weird, like it wasn't like as much of a kind of like, let's say, poetically kind of resonant line or like ironic line as they seem to be acting like it was,
Yeah.
So I don't know, it was a bit weird.
Yeah, maybe he knew he was always going to end up like that. I'm not sure. Anyway, so Martin Scorsese said that basically this film was lovingly and passionately crafted, and Nightmare Alley is truer to the animating spirit of film noir than many homages that have been made over the years. So I guess, you talked about, it's a good noir, I guess, but still there is an element of not being able to connect with the characters, which I think would have been better here. So, yeah. Anyway, Kevin Maher at the time said, we're watching an oddly literal melodrama about bad people doing very bad things, very slowly. So, yeah.
Very slowly.
That's the thing. It's not an amazing story. It's not that interesting. The stakes aren't that high. It's kind of just meh. It's like a meh movie. Like it's well done.
It's like a melodrama.
And you can appreciate what the movie is going for and what it's saying. And you agree with the message. But yeah, it just could have been a lot better, I feel like. But anyway, I'm going to give this movie, Michael, what did I give it? I think I gave it a 6 out of 10. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, so for me, I think like the big issue with this film is that like if I'm watching like a film that's supposed to be about kind of these, I guess like a noir film, like a film that's like about these scheming and backdoor deals and these like kind of dark, broken characters. I guess I just want it to have like a bit more intrigue. I don't know, it's this kind of situation where I'm like, okay, the film had like not a bad amount of intrigue. One of the things I'm struggling to think is when would I ever want to like watch the film again? Which is not a great question to be asking about a film, because I just think I'll be interested to compare it to the original, but yeah, for me, I'm just gonna give it a low 6 because I just think like it's good enough to be worth a watch, which I guess technically makes it better than a 5. But I'm also like, just in terms of like what it was actually about,
Okay, so yeah, I think an is a good way to sum it up. A 6 out of 10 for Nightmare Alley. So let's get on to the last movie, which is Drive My Car. Do you want someone to drive your car, Michael?
Yeah, so that I can so I don't have to look at the road while I'm watching this film. It's the only way that I can I can justify watching it by taking a very long journey.
Anyway, so it's a 2021 Japanese drama film directed by Ryusuke Hamogachi. Not Tamagotchi, whatever those things were. Remember those?
Yeah, Tamagotchis.
Tamagotchis, that's it.
Yeah. Do you know tamago means egg in Japanese?
Great. It stars Hirotoshi Nishijima, Toko Miura, Riki Kirishima, Park Yu-rim, Jin Dae-yeon, Sonya Yuan, Anne Hiwate, Perry Dyson, Satoko Abe, and Masaki Okada. And you may struggle to figure out when one of those names ends, one of those names begins. But
yeah, that is true. Yeah, like that was one actor. Who are the rest?
Okay, so the movie was released on the 20th of August 2021 in Japan, about a month early at the Cannes Film Festival. It's 3 hours long. The languages are Japanese, English, Korean, Mandarin, German, and Korean Sign Language. And we don't have the budget, but we do have the box office. How much do you think this made?
Oh crap! 7 million.
Oh, we've gone less than half.
I don't. Yeah, I just couldn't really think about it at all. But how much?
We've gone less than half. 15.
Oh really? Oh my god, that's so annoyingly close.
Well, 15.4.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So Michael, did you like Drive My Car?
Well, look, okay, here's the thing. I know it's a bit, you might say it's not very sophisticated to complain about a film being long. I will say that this film felt kind of obnoxiously long in terms of being, like, entirely unjustified. I don't know, like, I mean, the thing is, this film, it did feel like, I was like, okay, yeah, like, this character's kind of interesting. I don't know if I can fully relate to his cuckness. I don't know if that's, like, enough of a basis for a character, really. But like I was like, no, okay, there is something interesting going on here. The one thing I'll say right out the gate is that I don't know whether or not the Uncle Vanya, the play they're doing, I don't know if that has like some thematic relevance because I don't know my Chekhov very well. But if that is a thing, that obviously like makes the film better, I guess. Like if like there's actually some deep reason why Uncle Vanya is chosen, it's like relevant on some thematic level. Because I'm a Philistine, I don't know that. So for me, I could only appreciate the film on like a base level where it was kind of like, yeah, there's some emotional resonance there. There's some like kind of character stuff going on.
Stuff, yeah. No, I'll say
not great.
I think it's really interesting, this movie, if you know what it's about. And you do some reading behind the scenes of the themes. It's kind of like Power of the Dog in that respect,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting movie. I don't know, I just like watching like movie. I mean, obviously we just watch a ton of movies. This is different because the Japanese, they have a different way, or East Asians have a different way of making.
Because they're weird.
They have a different way of making movies. It's a different style in terms of like the dialogue. Yeah. And how movies, well, at least the movies that I've seen from this part of the world. So it's just nice to...
I always notice the dialogue, like, just because obviously, I mean, it's translated, but I'm kind of like, yeah, this is like Japanese, it's a very different language. I'm sure, like...
Yeah, it's just different. It's just interesting. It's naturally interesting to watch this movie. Drive My Car, Michael. I've got 2 nitpicks.
Oh, yeah, actually, I've got 2 nitpicks too.
So firstly, Saab, the car he drives around in, is a Swedish car company. Why not a Japanese car? You got Toyota, Mazda, Honda, so many. So I don't know why he's being unpatriotic there.
Yeah, that's true.
And I didn't realise, this is a nitpick on me, I didn't realise the woman who could sign language. You know that woman? Yeah. I
think I know where you're going with this one.
I didn't realise he was the Korean guy's wife at first when they were introduced.
Oh, okay, no, that's, yeah.
No, No, it's a racist one. No, because he brings her out, and I'm like, okay, well, great. Why is there such a big reaction? And then she's doing sign language. It's like, oh, it's the same woman. I was just confused. So yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and genuinely that was my feeling. So what does that say about me, Michael?
No, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. For me, I will say, like, I actually thought you were going to say that you didn't realize she could understand people talking, because I took me a while to realize, presumably she's not deaf. She's just mute.
Yes, she's mute, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I thought you were going to say. For me, I had two nitpicks, but I decided to get rid of one because fuck it. So instead I've got this very serious nitpick. Why wasn't the driver Viggo Mortensen? I was just thinking, wouldn't that improve things? Wouldn't that just add something to it? Can you imagine how much better that would be? Like, he shows up and he's like, hey, you're Japanese. What do you mean you never had sushi? Hey, have some sushi.
Yeah, great. So let's get into the plot. So Yusuke Kafuku, a stage director and actor, is unable after 2 years to cope with the loss of his beloved wife, and he accepts an invitation to direct Uncle Vanya at a theatre festival in Hiroshima. He meets Misaki, an introverted young woman appointed to drive his car. You can never tell when the Japanese are introverted, can you?
That's a good point, yeah.
In between rides, secrets from the past and heartfelt confessions will be unveiled. So yeah, it's about this guy coping with grief, understanding, basically getting over what happened in his life, this traumatic event, and all the feelings, and the car is a representation of a lot of things that, are going on in his life and their conversations. It's a very important place, this car. So let's get into this movie. So this guy, he lives in Tokyo with his wife Otto, a screenwriter who conceives her stories during sex and narrates them to him. He learns his lines by listening to tapes recorded by Otto while driving his red Saab 900 Turbo. Yusuke returns home early one day and finds his wife having sex with Koji, this guy who's in one of her shows, but does not disturb them. See, this is why the Japanese are weird, okay? This is
exactly, yeah.
How is that something you can just walk away from,
I like to imagine, like Japanese people are watching this and they're just like, yeah, that is, I'm not going to do an accent. That's a very normal reaction, they say to themselves. Like, that's the thing, like, I'm just like, that's one of the problems with these films. I'm kind of like, is this supposed to be like a weird quirk of this guy? Or is this just what Japanese people be doing?
I don't know.
So the Japanese first just like, yeah, that's a very normal reaction.
Must be respectful and dignified while being hooked.
As long as they like bow afterwards. Yes. Do you think they do that after sex?
That'd be funny. I don't think they do.
Oh, you know what it probably is? It's when they lose their erection. That's the bow.
Okay. No, I just imagine they both like finish and then they just lying, with each other in bed, and they just get up and just bow to each other. No, I don't think that actually happens. No. Yeah, but that's the thing.
It reminds me of there's one thing in Family Guy where they're like a bunch of Japanese people and they're just being kind of like generically kind of weird in Japanese, and Pete's just like, you people are a circus.
Yeah, he should take his samurai sword and go to town on both of them.
Oh my god, that would be so cool.
But he doesn't. No, I mean, we are being a bit racist here. I don't know. It just seems like a very weird thing to do, and we don't know if it's a Japanese thing or this guy's a weirdo. I don't know. Anyway, he also finds out the stories that, she tells him when they have sex, the stories about her, basically. And her, like, she can't tell him, so she's using these stories to tell him, basically. That's what she's doing. That's interesting. So one day, Otto asks to have a serious conversation with Yusuke. After he spends the day driving alone, he returns and finds Otto dead with a brain hemorrhage. So this is weird. Like, I knew he was going to die, or she was going to die. It's just like a very weird thing to have happen. Like, that's how she dies, like a brain hemorrhage. Like, what are the odds,
Yeah, like it's oh god, I can't do Simpsons references. It's just like in some other animated show where it's like Drederick Tatum had a heart attack moments before stepping into the ring. Yeah, it's like how convenient. But no, yeah, it's very random.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it does happen. You can't argue that. Technically speaking, it could technically happen, so it's fine.
Yes, I guess so. So he hears his dead wife's voice whenever he's driving in the Saab, so that has some meaning we'll get to. And basically he accepts a residency in Hiroshima 2 years later to direct a multilingual production of Uncle Vanya. The theatre festival requires that he be chauffeured in his own car for insurance reasons, so he bonds with this young driver called Misaki Watari. Okay, so
yes,
he of course then casts Koji as Uncle Vanya, and yeah, I was wondering, is he like, let's see how good this Koji guy is compared to me. Yeah.
Sorry, wait. Sorry. We haven't acknowledged, by the way, unless I missed you, the fact that the credits happen like an hour into the film.
Oh, we
the
did.
Opening credits. Yeah.
I mean, I just skipped past that because it's 3 hours. I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Skip through the credits. Actually, I didn't think about that. Oh my god, I could have saved so much time.
Well, it's part of his, and anyway, they're all in Japanese, so I couldn't read. No, I know there was an English translation, but yeah, it's part of his it's the part of his. Look, the story's about him coming to terms with his wife's death, and that's when the story really starts. Before was just like an epilogue, I guess. Wait, have I used the word right there?
Yeah, it's prologue.
Sorry, prologue. I'm just fucking. Yeah. I knew I messed up as soon as I said it. Yeah, but I like when he casts this Koji guy as Uncle Vanya. I think
because it's like a dick measuring contest. So I feel really inappropriate considering the the nature of these things. But whatever the Japanese equivalent, an honor measuring contest.
They're very passive aggressive, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So basically, Uncle Vanya is about an elderly professor and his glamorous, much younger second wife. So there you go. I mean, I'm not sure. Do you think it has any meaning, Michael? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I really don't know because obviously whatever. The only thing I know about Chekhov is Chekhov's gun.
We know that.
So yeah, I think it could be like it probably is one of those things where like. If it's got to be relevant. Like I was thinking to myself when I was watching it, I was like, this can't be just like a completely random decision for a play. But by golly, do I have no idea what it is? So like, there's no way. I'm not getting anything out of this connection. I just had to consign myself to that reality.
Yes. So Yusuke reveals that he and Otto lost their young daughter, who would be Masaki's age. So Otto's gift for telling stories after sex with the bond that helped them cope. Yusuke believes she still loved him, and Koji shares one of Otto's stories that Yusuke never heard in its entirety. So yeah, Otto was basically crying out for him, I guess. Like she wanted him to find out about her affairs.
Yes.
Like she didn't mean it, but she wanted it. So the police interrupt a rehearsal and arrest Koji, the man he attacked. He attacked this guy, died from his injuries, and then obviously Yusuke basically asks Misaki to take him to her childhood home in Hokkaido, Japan, which is where that Simpsons shampoo is. Yeah, great. Yusuke shares his guilt for not coming home to face the discussion Otto wanted to have, which might have allowed him to save her life. Yes. Misaki reveals that she escaped the landslide but chose not to pull her mother from the wreckage. Receiving a scar on her cheek she has chosen not to have treated. They visit the snowy remains of Misaki's childhood home and hug as they both confront their shared grief. Yeah, you got to confront your grief. That's the message of the movie.
Yeah, you can't run from your problems.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, also yeah, at the end, obviously, her scar heals, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I wrote one thing. I just realized. We find out when they're heading up there. We find out just in a voiceover. Like I don't know if this was mentioned elsewhere, but I wrote his name wrong. Who's Kogi? Is that his name?
Koji.
Koji. Yeah. That he fucked a minor because obviously like he gets arrested for beating someone up.
Excuse me.
But then didn't on the newspaper thing they were like basically this guy became disgraced a few years ago when he had a like kind of inappropriate relationship with a minor.
Oh, I didn't.
I don't really blame you because it was right towards the end of the film and it was like in a voiceover.
I missed
But
it.
I was like, yeah, so okay, I'm glad because I was like, that's a very weird thing to include as a complete aside. Let's
see if that is explained because I'm going to read the meaning behind Drive My Car.
I mean, to be honest, I also say like I'm a bit confused in Japan. Like, how young do you have to be in Japan for it to qualify as an inappropriate relationship with a minor? I thought they were pretty weird about that kind of stuff.
Must have really fucked up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the director. So this is the meaning of Drive My Car. So the director Yusuke moves to Hiroshima during the journey to that city, which for the history of Japan is as much an open wound as those of the protagonist.
Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was thinking, like, Hiroshima, I mean, I hate to kind of typecast Hiroshima as just the city that got bombed, but I was thinking, I don't think that choice can be,
It's the city that got bombed. Yeah. The opening credits are placed, this I think has been translated, the opening credits are placed of the work. This is not a random choice. The actual story of Yusuke's catharsis begins at the 40th minute with the transfer of him to Hiroshima. So, there you go. Did you get that now, Michael?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Accompanying him is a means of transport, which for him is the place of the most hidden soul and inviolable.
Yeah, inviolable.
Yeah, shell that
can't be violated.
Yeah, that makes sense. That gives him comfort and at the same time imprisons him in the past. The Saab was present during the trips with Otto and the discovery of her betrayals, and it is there that Yusuke locks himself up to listen to the tapes with the recorded voice of his deceased companion. These are the same stories that she told him in bed in a dark room as dense as the shadow that weighs on his life. The car for Yusuke is an impenetrable armor. And yeah, basically it's Misaki, a companion, and obviously she is the exact age that Yusuke and Otto's daughter would be. Did you get that, Michael?
Oh, no, that makes sense, though.
Well, I thought that would be more obvious, but apparently not. The imperative invitation that gives the title to the film is dedicated to Misaki herself, like Drive My Car. The car represents for Yusuke the unspeakableness of his past, the grief he does not want to overcome. Letting another person drive it means allowing him to take charge of it and respond accordingly. The model is not that of the confessional, but of a mutual growth, of mutual belonging. Yusuke and Misaki, in their being at the same time compromised with their own demons and willing to overcome them together, are two solitudes that meet together. So there you go. Do you like that, Michael?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, definitely you can like get that sense of them having, you know, the what's the word? A parallel.
Yes.
Like there's obviously that parallel between them. Which
So
makes sense.
Koji is destined. This is what he represents. Abandoned himself to instinctive self-destruction. So there you go.
Okay.
Did you get that? That's
Yeah. So Koji, because he's like violent and stuff, and like, you know, he's got an ego.
Yes.
So maybe the message there is, you know, if you've got an ego, you beat people up and you go to prison. If you're a cuck, then you just bide your time, and eventually you'll win.
Yes. The relationship between Yusuke and Misaki ends differently. The two, as different as they are similar, are reflected in that timeless capsule that is the Red Saab. From being a place of closed isolation in oneself, the car has become a place of communion. And I think you see them both hold a cigarette, you know, to make sure the car isn't damaged. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And they hold it out the sunroof.
Yeah. Hold it out the sunroof.
Very artsy.
Yes. A journey to Yusuke's childhood home is an opportunity to add a third dimension. The director and his driver no longer move only horizontally, but also through time in search of the repressed and recognition of an inner strength that seemed buried. The film updates us explicitly about Yusuke's fate, showing his triumphant return. Misaki's future is more interpretable. The final scene of the story shows her aboard Yusuke's Red Saab, alone in the company of a dog. Did Yusuke perhaps give her the car as a sign of total trust or personal liberation from the burden of the past? It's interesting. What matters is it is clear that Misaki too has overcome her grief.
It's not bad. You know, it's still, I guess, on some level, like it's not. I don't think it sounds that deep, because it is still kind of like, okay, you know, a lot of that is still quite surface level, but you know, I mean, it's definitely something there, which is nice. Yeah,
no, I agree. I just found this movie kind of interesting, and yeah, it is quite, you know, deep, and it's I think again it's because I haven't seen a lot of Japanese cinema, so you're naturally drawn to something that is different after watching all these American movies, which they all are American movies, all these Oscar movies. So yeah.
Well,
let me just say I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay, yeah. 8 out of 10. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah. So for me, I would say it felt quite long. But like, you know, part of it, again, you know, I don't want to sound like a Philistine, but it feels longer when you're reading, apart from anything else.
That's a good point.
I think the film could have been shorter, and, you know, for what it was, I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. Which is, you know, with that said,
I get that. Yeah. I think, you know, if I'd watched more Japanese movies, maybe this wouldn't be rated as high. What are you going to give it out of 10?
I was going to give it just a middling 7.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's not too dissimilar to that, so that's fine. So it's time now to rank the Best Picture nominees from the 2022 Oscars, and see which we like the best. So, Michael, let's start with your. Have you ranked them?
Yes, I've got them all listed in order.
All 10.
Yes,
including
all 10,
including Don't Look Up.
Yeah, I remember Don't Look Up.
Good. So, what's the worst movie on your list?
The worst movie on my list is Coda.
With what?
With a low 5.
Wow. So my worst is Don't Look Up, which I gave a 6.
Yeah.
Okay, and then number 9 for me is Coda, which I also gave a 6.
Okay. Sorry. And then for me, number 9 is actually Nightmare Alley with a low 6.
Okay, Nightmare Alley also gets a 6 for me, and is the 8th best.
For me, 8th is King Richard, middling 6.
Oh, wow, so you like Don't Look Up a lot more than me then.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. So let me just say this. I was surprised because we reviewed Don't Look Up ages ago.
Yeah, last year.
Let's just say I was surprised at where Don't Look Up ended up being because I couldn't remember. I really want to, like, I think I need to rewatch it because apparently, okay, whatever, you'll see.
Okay, then in my number 7th place out of 10 is Dune with 6.5.
Okay, for me, Belfast, middling 6.
Okay, then it's Licorice Pizza, number 7.
Oh, that's nice. Licorice Pizza, a high 6.
Yes, so top 5 now. Number 5 is West Side Story with a 7.
West Side Story, high 6.
Okay, then we have King Richard, number 4 with a 7.5.
Dune, low 7.
Okay, yeah, oh my god, Don't Look Up hasn't come up yet, wow. So then we have 3 Belfast with a 7.5.
Don't Look Up. I gave it a middling 7.
That's really high, man.
Yeah.
And you placed it in your top 3. Jesus Christ.
I know, crazy.
And then Drive My Car, 8.
Drive My Car, middling 7.
Did you only give Drive My Car middling 7, so Don't Look Up wouldn't be second?
It was something, it was maybe in the back of my mind, I realised that if I gave it a low 7, it would be, but, it's still Drive My Car. I also, I appreciated it. It definitely wasn't just that.
Yeah. By the way, I put, I've given some movies the similar or the same score. I have ranked them, like, in order of preference. Like, Don't Look Up and Coda are both on a 6. I like Coda more.
Yeah, I've done that, because,
And then number 1, Power of the Dog, 8.5.
And for me, Power of the Dog, low 8.
So we can agree that
Power of the Dog is the best.
Power of the Dog should have won Best Picture last year, and Coda should definitely not have.
Yeah, so where was Coda for you?
9th.
Yeah.
What was it for you?
Yeah. It was 10th. It was dead last.
So it's the worst on average Coda.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow, that says a lot, isn't it? The movie we on average gave the worst score because you gave Don't Look Up. You put that third. That means Coda's the worst, and that won Best Picture, which just sums up the Academy, doesn't it? But yeah, should have been Power of the Dog, and that was probably second, and it won. So again, just it's weird. But anyway, hopefully people agree. And yeah, what are we reviewing next week, Michael? Because we're off the Oscars, aren't we?
Yes, next week we are reviewing. The Big Lebowski.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So join us for the Big Lebowski. It's 25.
That's the 25.
25-year anniversary. It had been about a month earlier, but whatever. Who were you, Michael?
I was Michael,
and
I still am, and probably will be next week.
Yes, thanks for listening to our 2022 Oscar Best Picture nominees reviews, and yeah, let's see how we do next year. Bye.
Bye.